Hi everyone, what's up? Josh here with the Varia VS3 coffee grinder. Now, I'm really quite amazed at this grinder. With its aesthetic minimalist design, the workmanship that's gone into its build, along with the simple yet clever features and accessories that enhance your grinding experience. And Varia has done an incredible job and should be commended of this. As the VS3, it feels premium, like it's worth more than it is. And it definitely offers that same added value in its performances. Now, I was a little bit stumped onto what to really compare it to within its price range for value. Think about it, it's a single dosing, low retention, 38mm 6-core conical burr grinder that predominantly does espresso but can easily do filter, and it has an included bellows and an RDT bottle. And there's really nothing like that out of the box for $600. So let's smooth over the features that make the user experience on the VS3 so enjoyable, and we'll take a look at the specs and all, and then we'll get into a comparison of other grinders after that. And of course, like the video everyone, and subscribe to the channel if you wish to see more. Let's get into it. The Varia grinder has a 30-gram bean capacity, both in the hopper and the magnetic catch cup below. The magnetic hopper lid up top, this can be used as is, or what I would imagine will be default for most VS3 owners, taking full advantage of the bellows system. This will allow you to minimize the retention within the grinder. Looking down the hopper, you have a removable finger guard, but this also acts kind of like an anti-popcorn screen too. I do find that beans regularly get caught up on this, and then I'm left wondering where the rest of my dose is. It's not that much of an inconvenience though to push them down further, just be careful not to injure yourself. The burrs, these are a 38mm conical, high nitrogen stainless steel, lasting up to 150 kilograms. Being a 6-core set, it has an extra cutting burr to the standard 5-core set, and it turns out a low 160 RPMs. So this grinder isn't built to grind very fast at all, but those low RPMs do help with the grind consistency, which we'll take a look on shortly. The other added benefit to low RPMs is it's relatively quiet compared to other grinders in the same size. So let's now just grind out a dose of espresso. I've got 20 grams here, it's set on 3, and see how it performs for its speed and the noise it produces. Very quiet indeed. Really nice looking grind consistency. The only downside is that that dosing cup is not compatible with 58mm baskets, and you would probably want to get a dosing ring if you were transferring grounds into the basket that way. Now, you might have noticed me using a little spray bottle to dose my beans out, and the Varia comes with an RDT bottle. RDT stands for the Ross Droplet Technique. And in short, it's this little spray bottle of water that's going to reduce common static issues you see with most grinders. This does overall reduce the amount of mess in grinding and then lowers the retention of the grounds that get stuck up in the grind chute. And on the Varia VS3, it's down to a very reasonable margin of 0.2 to 0.3 grams each time you dose out, being retained inside this grinder, so long as you're also using the bellows. RDTing isn't anything particularly new, but it is great to see that it's not so much of a trend now as something that is taken seriously by manufacturers who see the benefits. And like Varia, they've taken these steps to include a little RDT bottle as an accessory to the grinder. You also get a brush, a replacement set of 4 burr springs, and also a tool to remove the burrs, to keep your grinder in tip-top shape. Now, this grinder will grind for all brewing methods, including espresso up to filter. And it has an easy to read and turn dial that's calibrated to 0 from factory. As a stepless grinder, each movement between the numbers moves the burrs 0.02 millimeters each time. And this refers to 20 microns of grind size adjustment within each movement. And the grind sight, for what it's worth, is also magnetic and adjustable. And Varia recommends anywhere from 0 to 3 for espresso grinding, which I found to be quite true, 4 to 6 for mocha pot brewing, and a larger range of 7 to 12 for pour overs, and then further on down the line of adjustment to French press and cold brewing, which is anywhere upwards of 18 on the grind dial. All right, the comparison part. As a conical burr grinder, I do remain skeptical whether the Varia will brew that clean and transparent filter coffee that we all love. I've aligned then a comparison with the VS3 and a near neighbor in price, and those features of low retention and single dosing, with a flat burr Eureka Mignon Manuel, and that has aftermarket hopper and bellows placed on it, but is still within that same price range. I also did go in and throw a Niche Zero as that conical burr comparison as well, but I do want to also make special mentions to the grinders that did make that shortlist, like a Baratza Sede 270, a Kinu hand grinder, the Longon Mini, and a DF64. However, here we are with the Eureka Mignon and a Niche Zero. Now, in terms of a grinder that does come stock standard as a single dosing grinder, you know, we talk about low retention, it grinds for both brew methods, the bellows. The Varia has little indirect competition in that price range. So let's just go ahead now and we'll cup all 3 grinders and see how they perform. Okay. This is fun. I love doing this. Tasting the same coffee, 3 different grinders, how different everything changes between these 3 grinders. Now I've got 3 bowls in front of me, all very different. One's very transparent and clean. One is juicy. It doesn't have a lot of body. It's that real fruit juice of a cup. We have this one that is first up on the palate. There isn't much, but there is a heavy body that kind of carries through the middle, and then a nice lingering juicy flavor to it. I love all this coffee, but this one would be the most body out of all 3 cups. And then this one, I guess, I call it the all-rounder because it has enough cleanliness, brightness, acidity, sweetness, but it has enough body to carry through on a nice, enjoyable, lingering aftertaste. So this would be my all-rounder. This really stands out as clean, bright, sweet, acidic fruit cup of a coffee, body, and then all-rounder. And a lot has to do with the burrs here. Like if we look at the burrs and the motors, the RPMs that these grinders are running at, you've got the Niche Zero. So it's 68 millimeter conical burrs and it runs at 330 RPMs. So fairly fast. Well, slow actually, but the Varia is half as slow as that at 160 RPMs, and it's only using 38 mil burrs. So smaller burrs, slower motor. And then we've got the Eureka Mignon, which are flat burrs, so not conical. And I suspect this cup would be the flat burrs just because it stands out amongst the rest in terms of brightness and acidity. But the flat burrs are 50 mil and the grinder runs at 1350 RPMs. So quite a big split there in terms of RPMs and I guess, yeah, burrs and burr sizes. So which one's which, man? I'm saying this is the Eureka, just because it stands out amongst the rest. I mean, I've been plenty wrong in the past too. I will attach a little bit of a doubt on that, is that this might in fact be the high clarity and acidity. It might in fact be the Varia. I'm just saying that, it might be. I'm prepared to not place 2 grinders on 1 bowl, but I'm prepared to say that's the Eureka, but it could be the Varia. This, pretty certain, is the Niche. Just, I've tasted the Niche with filter coffee before, and yeah, it didn't really wow me, except that really heavy, juicy body at the end. And then this, I would say if that is not the Varia, this is the Varia, where it's the all-rounder. It's kind of the low RPMs kind of brighten the acidity up, bring some sweetness out of it, but it's a conical burr grinder, so it's got some body to it, it's got some lingering aftertaste, and it's quite balanced in that regard, which is nice, which is really nice. I enjoy a balanced cup of coffee. Now, we went on the grinders, we went red, white on the niche, and blue on the Eureka Mignon. So it should be red, white, and blue. So this should be red, this should be white, and this should be blue. Let's check it out. Let's check out this bright and acidity cup first. My second guess was right. That is in fact the Varia. So bright, acidic, juicy. That's really cool. That's fantastic that a conical burr grinder provides that flavor test. Now about these two, I could just be like, meh, whatever, but for the viewers, I'm gonna let you know whether this was the niche or not. White is the niche. It is indeed white. And this would be the blue, so the cups were swapped. Who would have thought? Eureka Mignon was quite a balanced cup, but this was the bright and juicy. So the Varia can do filter coffee. Very cool. Let's now do espresso. All right, 3 espressos. That took way longer than it should have to dial those 3 coffees in. My goodness. Just gonna give these in each a general stir. There we go. Gonna put these on a spin cycle and then I'll come back and we'll taste some espressos. Perfect. All right, we're back. Better stop that. Just about there. There we go. 3 espressos, 1 on the niche, 1 on the Eureka Mignon with the dosing hopper, and 1 on the Varia VS3. Just want to point out, what's really cool about the VS3 in this sense is that it's giving you that vertical burr movement, the actual movement of the burrs, and then you know the microns between each step. And I don't think I've really ever come across that in any particular home grinder before. Certainly hand grinders, but electric grinders that give you that precision in exactly what change you're making. It's fantastic. It really is. Like, I had to make a single incremental change to the grind dial on my espresso while I was dialing in. And I knew now that for this particular coffee, as I was dialing in, that 20 micron change made like a 3-second difference to my espresso flow. So that was just perfect. And again, you don't really, other than I guess the like knowing a notch on the niche or knowing like a notch on the Eureka makes that same change, you can actually pinpoint it to a micron size now, knowing how your espresso flows. So I really loved that about the VS3 when dialing in. And it was relatively easy, really precise on the dial, much the same to like a niche 0, very, very precise, very easy to follow. A little bit more difficult on the Mignon, but once you get into that ballpark, you kind of can adjust it quite small. And with the VS3, no problems at all. Let's just taste some of this espresso. Let's just taste some of this espresso and see how we go. All right, first one up. Oh man, this is such a lovely Costa Rican coffee. I love Costa Rican coffee. I just feel like it's such a characteristic coffee. It's always just so vibrant and juicy and bright and flavorful, full of like tropical fruits. With all of these tests I've done previously, there seems to be a carryover, right? Like when I do the espresso, if it's the results, when I do the espresso, I see the same results in the filter, or when I do the filter first, I see the same results in the espresso. It seems to carry over in terms of flavor profiles between burrs and grinders, so which is great. And I'm just going to be using that same default method today, knowing what the coffees did on the filter range, and then just tasting these espressos and hopefully guessing right that way. So I had a red dot, a white dot, a red dot on the VS3, a white dot on the niche 0, that's easy to remember, it's a white niche 0, and a blue dot on the Eureka. red, white, and blue. First coffee I tried, heavy, full-bodied. There's no like brightness or acidity that kind of just like pops out and kind of gets the juices flowing in your gums. There's nothing like that on this one. It's quite a rich, intense shot. So I'm gonna say this one's the niche for sure. Now this one jumped out at me way more in brightness and acidity. I will say it had a touch of bitterness at the end on the finish. Like I just got that just before I drank my water. I was like, ooh, what is that? But otherwise it's okay. It's really nice. It's definitely not this full-bodied shot. It's way more bright and juicy. But whether it's enjoyable or not, it's okay, it's good. And this shot, this was the light, floral, fruity, not a whole heap of body, but definitely that clean sort of shot that's transparent in its flavors. There's nothing really out of this world, but it's juicy. This shot has the most texture. This shot has the least texture. This shot has the most body. This shot has the most sweetness and acidity. This one kind of sits in the middle. I'm playing Goldilocks here. I'm gonna say Niche Zero, Eureka Mignon, and the Varia VS3, which is kind of, when I first picked this grinder up, I didn't expect it being conical burrs to be the bright, fruity, juicy cup of coffee. I figured it was going to come out with a whole lot of body and a whole lot of richness, like, you know, a general comparison to a conical burr grinder. In the filter, it surprised me. If this is the Varia VS3, that's amazing. That's really cool. I'm going to check it out. So it should be the red dot. And it is. It's the red dot. That's incredible. That's really incredible. I'm gonna put that down to, well, you could put it down to the burrs themselves specifically, but definitely those RPMs, I think, are coming in and just making such a big difference to the grind consistency. You're seeing it when I'm grinding into the portafilter and I'm using the WDT tool. The grinds are just fluffy. Like they're coming out and stacking up, and then when I dump them into the portafilter, they're just deliciously fluffy, which I like. So this was the Mignon, blue, I'm correct, and this is the Niche, there you go. Wow, juicy. That's the Varia VS3 for you. So if you had any questions on whether or not the VS3 is great for filter, or can it make a juicy cup because it's a conical burr grinder? Yeah, absolutely it can. Let's now check out cleaning. After switching off and unplugging the Varia, remove all the components that make up the hopper lid, and then adjust the hopper all the way coarse until it unscrews and pops off. Remove the large ball bearing that the hopper sits on, and then give this a good wipe down with a dry cloth. You can then remove that top burr carrier that sits on the 4 springs. This is done fairly easily, and then using the brush supplied, you can scrub out any retention around these burrs as well as the rest of the grinds chamber. Place it all back together again the same way you took it off to continue grinding with your Varia VS3. So the Varia grinder, it provides a good choice for filter brewing and espresso brewing. And I wouldn't say that it is just for the budget conscious, as it does perform consistently and really does fit in nicely within a price range that really doesn't have, I feel like a broken record, that really doesn't have that much in the way of single dosing, low retention filter and espresso grinders. The Varia is that grinder. However, it no doubt won't stay like that for very long. And I'm very looking forward to the VS3, as Varia have put forward their intentions to bring out further burr sets for this grinder, which will completely change the flavor profile of this grinder and certainly its performance as well, so it's only bound to get better. Now, you can pick up your own Varia VS3 from this link up above, and if you have any further questions on this grinder, throw them in the comments section down below and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Thanks for watching to the end of this video, and we'll see you in the next one.